My name is Miss Haley and I'm going to be demonstrating range of motion. We're going to begin with the neck. The neck is a pivot joint. We're going to start with flexion, which is bending the neck forward, taking the chin to the chest. Flexion. Extension is then returning the neck to its normal position. Extension. Hyperextension is taking the neck back toward the back. Hyperextension. Returning it back to its normal position. Extension. Cheek to shoulder is your lateral flexion. Turning the head and looking in the direction is rotation. The next joint is the shoulder. The shoulder is a ball and socket joint. To demonstrate flexion, you're going to move the arm at 180 degrees up. Extension is returning the arm back down. Hyperextension is taking the arm back behind the back 45 to 60 degrees. Now abduction. You take the arm above the head 180 degrees. Adduction is lowering the arm back to the waist, taking the arm across the front of the body. Circumduction is taking the arm in a full 360-degree circle. External rotation. You want to bend the elbow, hand pointing downward, and rotate the hand as you're raising your arm. Internal rotation is returning the arm back to its normal position, taking the hand back down. The next joint is the elbow. Elbow is a hinge joint. We're going to start with flexion. Palm up, you want to bring the palm to the nose. Flexion. Extension is bending back, palm stays up. Next is rotation. Rotation for supination is palm up. Rotation for pronation is palm down. Supination, pronation. Your rotation is a 70 to 90 degree angle. The wrist is a condyloid joint. Flexion is 80 to 90 degrees downward. Extension is straightening the wrist, same as the forearm. Hyperextension, you want to bend the wrist back as far 70 to 90 degrees. Extension, flexion, extension, hyperextension. The hand and fingers are condyloid joints. Flexion is making a fist. Extension is straightening the fingers. Hyperextension is bending the fingers back 30 degrees. Extension, flexion, extension, hyperextension. Abduction of the fingers. Abduction is spreading the fingers apart. Adduction is closing the fingers together. We're going to focus on the thumb. The thumb is a saddle joint. Flexion is moving the thumb across to the fifth finger at a 90-degree angle. That's flexion. Extension is then moving the thumb back out. The next joint we're going to talk about is the hip. It is a ball and socket joint. We're going to begin with flexion, extension, and hyperextension. For flexion, you want to move the leg forward and bend the knee. Raise the leg 90 degrees, bend the knee 120. That's flexion. Extension is the leg back down. Hyperextension is pushing the leg back 30 to 50 degrees without bending the knee. Circumduction is circling the leg, keeping the knee straight at a 360-degree angle. Abduction is moving the leg laterally away from the body, 45 to 50 degrees. Adduction is then putting the leg closer to the body and sweeping it across the midline 20 to 30 degrees. Internal and external rotation of the hip. For internal rotation, you want to turn the foot and leg inward to the other leg 90 degrees. This is where the foot turns in. External rotation, the foot and the leg point out as far as possible at a 90 degree. Internal rotation, external rotation. The knee is a hinge joint. Flexion, you'll bend the knee, heel back toward the buttocks at a 120 to 130 degree angle. Extension is then straightening the knee to its original position. To demonstrate flexion, extension, and hyperextension on the truck, we're going to first begin with flexion. You're going to bend forward 70 to 90 degrees. Extension is then standing back up. Hyperextension is bending the back 20 to 30 degrees. Extension, flexion, extension, hyperextension. For lateral flexion, you want to bend side to side 20 to 40 degrees. Rotation of the trunk includes twisting at the waist 30 to 40 degrees. You can do this with the arms out or on hips.